Hello, and welcome to a digital book talk from Massanutten Regional Library. Today's book talk is intended for our middle grade readers, so around 3rd through maybe 7th grade. This is December, and I don't know about you, but I was really wanting some type of feel-good kind of book, something that might put me in the spirit for the holidays, things about hope, about belief, about sharing, about doing good for others. And so I went looking for some things, most of which, well, half of which were new to me, and I'd like to share with you today. So we have The Family Under the Bridge, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, True and Nell, A Christmas Tale, and an eyewitness version of A Christmas Carol. So let's start over here with The Family Under the Bridge. The Family Under the Bridge is by Natalie Savage Carlson, and it was published in 1958. It actually earned a Newbery Award, or an honor award, Newbery Honor Award in 1959. This story takes place in the early 1900s in Paris. We have Armand, who is an old tramp or a hobo, and he has spent years avoiding responsibility, avoiding commitment. He does not like children because they represent responsibility and commitment to be taken care of, and those are the things he's been avoiding all these years. He refers to children as little starlings. One day, Armand returns to his home under a bridge to find 3 children, or starlings as he calls them, living there. Their names are Susie, Evelyn, and Paul. During the day, their mother goes off to work, leaving the kids to hide under the bridge, as she does not want to lose them to the authorities. Despite his grumpiness, Armand takes the children under his wing and quickly becomes attached to them. He introduces the family to a group of gypsies who help to make the holidays brighter for all of them. And by the end of the story, Armand is a reformed man, a changed person. He has come to care about other people and their welfare, specifically that of the 3 starlings and their mother that he's kind of adopted here. And the story shows the value in caring for others and welcoming additional people into your family, adopting people as part of your group, whether formally or informally. So that is The Family Under the Bridge by Natalie Savage Carlson. Our second book today is The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson. This is the first of 3 books where we learn about the Herdman children. The Herdman children are not known for their behavior in a good way. They don't behave in a good way. They behave poorly pretty much everywhere they go. They are known for creating mayhem in the town. There are 6 Herdman children: Ralph, Imogene, Leroy, Claude, Ollie, and Gladys. And they are known in the community as, quote, absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world, end quote. They are notorious for their rowdy misfit behavior, including cigar smoking, cussing, drinking jug wine, and shoplifting. In this story, the Herdmans go to Sunday school for the first time ever, after being told that the church offers snacks. They have never heard the Christmas story before, and they don't know anything about shepherds or wise men, but just the same, they volunteer to take all of the major roles in the Christmas play. And that means they also bully all of the other children into staying silent when volunteers are asked for, so that they will be guaranteed to get those spots. Everyone in town is expecting the Christmas pageant to be a disaster. But the Herdmans, with their unconventional performances, actually make the whole show much more realistic. Instead of walking on and off stage like actors, the Herdmans are a little uncertain about where to go and what to do, and it makes the story more real and lifelike as to what it might have been for the Holy Family during that time to be moving into a new place, going, for this uncertain thing about being counted, just more uncomfortable as the family might have been at that time. Instead of laying the doll that represents the baby Jesus down in the crib, in the manger, as she's supposed to, Imogene insists on holding it, and she presents the people watching with a very different view of her than what they've ever had before, as a loving person. The wise men don't see the gifts that are traditionally given as being appropriate. Consider that these children are very poor, so those gifts mean nothing to them, but they find a gift that means a lot to them to give to the baby Jesus during this pageant. And the shepherds are terrified of Gladys, who is authentically awed by her announcement of Jesus's birth. And so the herdman children end up teaching the town a lesson about the true meaning of Christmas and the holidays. This is also available at MRL as a video, which I have watched recently with my family, and I think we very much enjoyed because we got to see some of the way the kids acted and reacted to each other. And so this is The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson. Our third book today is True and Nell, A Christmas Tale by G. Neri. Now, this is a sequel to the title simply called True and Nell. And I admit I have not read the first book. I very much enjoyed this one, and I have plans to go back and read the first one. This book, True, is Truman Capote, and Nell is Nell Harper Lee. They, of course, are famous writers in their own rights. This is a story from when they were young. They were best friends. They lived in the small town of Monroeville, Alabama. And in this story, we follow them through the Christmas seasons of 1935, 1937, and 1956. In 1935, True is given the choice, a choice of whether to stay in Monroeville, Alabama, or to return to New York with his mother. He has a very difficult relationship with his mother, and so he hopes that if he chooses to live with her, that it will make him love, or make her love him more. It does not work that way. He does choose to go to New York, but she doesn't end up showing him the love that he wants. In fact, she sends him off to a boarding school, a military boarding school. So 2 years later, in 1937, True finds himself running away from that military school in order to return to the relatives in Monroeville, Alabama that he left behind. He arrives in the middle of the night, and he arrives in time to find their house going up in flames. True and his friends also have a run-in with a bully over a Christmas tree, and they watch a murder trial unfold that could end in the lynching of 2 men by the Ku Klux Klan. Ultimately, they celebrate the holidays in jail with the men who are convicted of murder. And then we jump ahead to 1957, when Truman and Nell are adults and are both living in New York City. And we find a very spectacular gift that was given to Nell by some of her new friends in New York City. This book is historical fiction, so the main characters are real people who lived, and some of the details are real, but other portions are made up by the author to help fill in the story. They do tell you in here some of the things that are actually real and some of the things that were amended or taken from out of context and changed a little bit, changed who that action happened to or exactly how it happened. So this was very good book. I enjoyed it very much. It also led me to another holiday title written by Truman Capote that is now sitting home waiting for me to read, where he tells a little more of his story about making fruitcakes with his cousin Sook, who for a good part of his childhood, well, she's one of his best friends. And I thought that was a very interesting portion of him being a young boy, but one of his best friends, one of his best relative friends, is a 60-year-old woman. So this is True and Now, A Christmas Tale by G. Neri. My last story for today is A Christmas Carol, originally written by Charles Dickens, but this version is an Eyewitness Classics version. So it's going to have some additional material in it. Just briefly, the story of A Christmas Carol, if you're not familiar with it, we have Ebenezer Scrooge, who is very miserly, loves his money more than anything else in the world, is very stingy with it. And then we have the people around him, such as Bob Cratchit, who works for him. And he treats Bob poorly, and Bob's family is very poor. Bob has a young son at home. He has multiple children at home, but the youngest one is sickly, and Scrooge comes to be visited by 3 ghosts who show him Christmases from his past, Christmas as it's happening in the present to those that he knows around him and how they see him as well, and then Christmas in the future if he does not change his ways. It's a classic tale. It's been taught in schools and read by many. It's always a great read for the Christmas time. It's a great story to watch. But I want to show you some of what's inside of this book just to give you an idea of how the eyewitness books give you a little extra material. So just to show you a little of the inside of this eyewitness book about Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It gives us some more information about the differences between the rich and the poor during this time period. It explains some of the things that are talked about in the story, tells us a little more about what a grindstone is, talking about the sign that has never changed, definitions of things like workhouses, things that we may not be familiar with in our current lives here, but that are in the story and make it a little more relatable and understandable for younger people reading it to be able to have those definitions and extra bits of information there with them as they partake of the story. And then some in the back about the author, Charles Dickens himself. So this was a book talk on some holiday books to help us get in the spirit and mood of sharing and caring and doing best for others. And I hope you find a great book to read today, but more importantly, that you find some ways to show your sharing and caring for others. Thank you for joining us, and happy reading.